Don't speak ill of others. It'll come back to you.
That was my husband's belief. My name is Layla. I'm 32. My husband Gabriel is 34. We have 2 kids, Ada and Abel, who are 4 and 2. We had our first right after getting married. My in-laws live a plane ride away. We waited until the youngest turned 2. Difficult to travel with infants. And during that time, I got pregnant with our second. So our next Christmas would be the first time going back home.
My brother's wife reached out about the trip.
My husband mentioned. His brother lives with his wife, Aurora, their 2 kids, and my mother-in-law, Hazel.
She brought up gift card amounts. Should we match them?
Yeah, we should give back what we received.
And she says $250 each?
$250 each? I thought that was a lot and had to ask twice. Isn't their oldest 5 and the youngest 3? Both get $250? I wanted to confirm.
Yeah, $250 each. But you know, kids nowadays want electronic gadgets. I heard Nintendo Switches are pricey. And superhero transformation belts. You have to buy capsules for each character type, so it adds up. Maybe it's their once-a-year treat.
I see. Well, we'd be receiving the same amount. So reluctantly, we prepared 250 gift cards for each child, totaling $500. Then came our first Christmas homecoming. We attended the Christmas Eve service and drove back on the 25th. Upon arrival, Hazel immediately asked,
"You brought an apron, right?"
Yes, I did. My mom had warned me there might be work to do, so I brought one just in case.
Oh, good. Then you can start with the shopping.
It was a long drive, my husband at the wheel. I thought a little appreciation would be nice, but replied, "If you could just tell me where the supermarket is." I did wonder, shouldn't they have prepared if they were expecting us? But the words that came next from Hazel far exceeded any dissatisfaction I'd felt before.
"What? You think I'd go to the supermarket on Christmas? That's so tacky. Go to Macy's for me, will you?"
A department store? Even with the after-Christmas sales going on, groceries from a department store? And she expects her son's wife to handle it? All that comes to mind now is a sea of question marks. Then Hazel, sensing the mood, began to speak in a tone like a song from a musical.
"Listen, it's Christmas today, a once-a-year celebration. Besides, we pride ourselves on being gourmets with discerning taste. The idea of us eating supermarket meat on Christmas is ludicrous. Prime meat for the prime rib. Can you go buy it now? You with your money, not Gabriel's. Okay."
Hazel insisted that I pay with my own money, not my husband's. In our home, the purse strings are shared, but there's no point in arguing that now.
"I made it clear before we married, didn't I? I asked if you'd continue to work post-marriage. With dual-income households becoming the norm, you said you'd work. You have the kids at daycare now, right? So you can afford prime rib meat, and you can afford to splurge on your in-laws' taste."
I couldn't understand her logic, but maybe that's just how it is with in-laws. I bit my lip and agreed to go shopping. When I was about to leave in the car, Aurora shouted from inside the house,
"Buy extra! We can freeze what's left and eat it later!"
So gourmet taste, but freezing is fine. In the end, I spent around $200. But the Christmas ordeal didn't end there. The kids were opening a gift card from Aurora. Huh? It was a different color than the one we prepared. Upon inspection, it was a $5 gift card. Peeking in, there were 2 $10 gift cards and 1 $5 gift card. Instead of the $250 we were expecting, it was just $25, 10 times less. And it was listed as from me and mother-in-law together. We had given $250. I finally mustered the courage to ask, I hate to say this, but the amount is different from what we were told." I mentioned to Aurora. Maybe my husband had misunderstood. The response was unbelievable.
"What? Of course it's expected. You guys are staying with us for the Christmas holiday. That includes a care fee, right? We even aired out the futons for you. That should be added to the gift card amount. Oh, and don't forget, as the kids grow, remember to increase the amount accordingly. It's also their Christmas present. Every year add an extra $50, okay?"
$50 each year? That's $100 for 2, yearly. That means an increase of $1,000 after 10 years. My mind went blank. But the economic impact wasn't the only challenge for me. Hey, could you deep clean the kitchen and bathroom? I was told. So not only was I roped into the New Year's celebrations, but it seemed I was also in charge of debt repayment before Christmas.
Wait, you mean right before Christmas?
When it comes to the big cleanup, it's a pre-Christmas tradition.
See, you've got kids and mother-in-law around, right? I could have helped if it weren't for mother-in-law,
Aurora says with a smile.
So you'll do it, okay? I've prepared all the cleaning supplies for you.
I was handed a sponge as if on cue. Looks like I'll be doing a year's worth of cleaning, starting from Christmas.
Hey, what's Layla doing right now?
My husband begins to ask, showing concern.
Oh, she's just doing her duties as a son's wife. I've been through all this when I was young.
Hazel covers up her words, reaching my ears. While I'm cleaning, Aurora and Hazel are munching on the pastries I brought, saying things like,
Next year, you should bring something more expensive.
Or, instead of prime rib, we should have lobster next year. The thought of sourcing lobster from Macy's next year darkens my mood even more. Only 364 days left until next Christmas. I seriously thought about telling my husband about this Christmas ordeal. But his belief is,
don't speak ill of others. It comes back to you. Keep a broad mind.
The idea of upsetting him with my complaints about the two women is just too painful for me. Yet keeping it all bottled up is something I just can't handle. So I end up calling Mom back home, going, You've got to hear this, and we talk for ages. And I let all my anger out. The peaceful year flies by, and Christmas comes around again. If I listen to the instructions and add $50, that means a $300 gift card each. $600 just flying away for the two of them. With my mind made up, I head to my in-laws. We were greeted with big smiles from Aurora and Hazel as we arrived.
Looking forward to this year too.
Their words aren't just a New Year's greeting. It's a trinity of expectations.
We're counting on your gift cards. We're counting on you to buy the meals. And we're counting on you for the big cleanup.
As soon as we sit down, Shall we start with the gift card exchange? They suggest. But at that moment, I stand up from my seat without a word. Aurora and Hazel look on with skeptical expressions. I take a deep breath and tell these detestable two clearly. I just came to drop off Gabriel today. I'm done here, so I'll be excusing myself to go back to my parents' house. I rattle off and reach for my car keys. The in-laws are flustered. As I said, I'm leaving now. I'll come pick up Gabriel in 3 days. I leave those words behind and call out to my sons. We're going to Grandpa's in Chicago now. And with the kids, I head for the door. The only ones in a panic aren't just Aurora and Hazel. My plan was a secret to my husband as well, and he's visibly confused by the sudden development.
Wait, what's going on?
Just what I said. I came to drop you off. I never said I'd spend this year at your parents' with you. I did say I'd go back. I say, and of course, he's shocked.
But you didn't say you were going back to Chicago.
If I say I'm going home, obviously I mean my parents' house.
Sure, that might be the case.
Well, never mind. I'm not out to punish you. Want to join us?
Yeah, okay.
With that, I returned to my hometown of Chicago, along with my family. Naturally, on the way there, my husband expressed his doubts.
Why has it come to this?
I told my husband about the plan in the car. Part of what Mom suggested when I vented on the phone. Other than that, we didn't speak much, and the car headed straight for my childhood home. Meanwhile, Hazel and Aurora from my in-laws were in a panic. With me gone, there was no one to do the big Christmas cleaning. No feast to eat, no gift cards for bonuses. All the things they'd taken for granted had fallen through. They must have been so frustrated. With tremendous speed, Aurora and Hazel chased after us in their car. That's how a little car chase to Chicago got started. Luckily or unluckily, the roads were empty because of Christmas. When we arrived, Mom was there to greet us. "Welcome," she said to Gabriel.
No, really, we're so grateful.
My husband managed, sweating over the commotion. Without a chance to go over the details with Mom, just 10 minutes later. "Layla, wait up!" A car zoomed up to the front of the house. It was Aurora's. "Huh? I thought we had shaken them off." Hazel burst out from the passenger seat of the car. Aurora followed, jumping out too.
What's the meaning of this?
They confronted me.
Welcome. What a long journey to Chicago. It was my mom. And then, with a smile, Mom extended her hand to Hazel and Aurora. Welcome. First things first. The visitation fee, please. What? What? Hazel and Aurora asked at the same time. Mom explained. I heard at your house you charge my daughter for caregiving in the form of gift cards, including for things like airing out the futons and preparing for arrivals. We've also prepared to welcome you, so please, as a visiting fee, each of you prepare $200. The sting of paying $200 each for a defensive preparation must be harsh. But as they had imposed it on me like a tradition, Hazel and Aurora had no choice but to pay. Mom cheerfully accepted the $400 and handed it to me, saying, Keep it. It was taken from you unfairly last year, wasn't it? Called out on their unfair practices, Aurora and Hazel had stern faces. My husband started to say, About those $200. Remember when we were told we'd get a $250 gift card last year? We only got $25, which supposedly included the charge for a Christmas visit. So Mom just gave them a taste of their own medicine. If you think about it, giving such a large sum to a child too young to understand money is absurd. Plus, they want to add $50 to the care fee every year. In 10 years, that'll add up to enough for an overseas trip. I laid out the truth for them. My husband stood dumbfounded. With stern faces, Aurora and Hazel were invited inside by Mom. Dad was also there. As they entered, he greeted them with a sly smile. As soon as they sat down at the living room table, Mom fired another shot. So I heard that Layla has been buying the Christmas meal, right? Please be sure it comes from Layla's purse, not Gabriel's money. What? He didn't know about this either. What do you mean, Layla? It's exactly as you heard. That's all I could respond with. And I laid it all out there, including the fact that before we got married, he persistently checked to make sure I would continue working. Wait, Mom. With each truth revealed, his face turned paler. Aurora and Hazel looked sheepishly embarrassed. So I'll have to do exactly what you had our daughter do. We don't have Macy's here, but Nordstrom will do as a similar department store. Please bring us some prime meat. Oh, and get extra. If there's leftovers, we'll have it here. Mom pointed towards Nordstrom with her chin. Then she forcefully led them to the entrance, practically dragging them out, and locked the door behind them. I had no idea it had come to this. He kept repeating that. I suppose they'll think twice and head back to their own home now. There's more that they did that I'll tell you about later. Like you, probably brother-in-law doesn't know the full extent. But our expectations were quickly overturned. Hazel and Aurora actually came back with the meat. 40 minutes later, they were there, really back with prime cuts of meat. All I could do was laugh. In the end, I needed them not to go back to my in-laws. All that effort? Well, we need to clean the house, and we'll need a feast anyway. Above all, it's about the gift cards for the kids. Their determination is admirable, not giving up. But Mom's trials weren't over yet. Now, let's move on to the Christmas entertainment, shall we? Shall we start the Guess the Prime Meat quiz? Mom brought out 2 plates with beef tenderloin. Apparently, she had made the sauce in the 40 minutes they were out shopping. Now, you two will guess which one is the prime meat. I hear you're fussy about flavors, so this should be a piece of cake. Under Mom's firm gaze, Hazel and Aurora had no choice but to taste the beef tenderloin. Their hands holding the forks were comically trembling. One seems to have more fat on it. Tastes better. Yes, this one's flavor is more subtle. As they pondered with uncertainty, the two reluctantly agreed on one choice. So we're going with plate A, right? Mom asked. Yes. Yes, they both replied. And the results are... As she teased the outcome, the two inhaled sharply. But then, the unexpected. Neither of these is prime meat. What? Ah? In perfect unison, Aurora and Hazel gasped in shock. Hey, that's not what we agreed on, Aurora snapped back. Mom was sporting a sly grin. I didn't change the story. I never said one of them was definitely made with prime meat.
She showed them the beef package used, which read, "Featured product, imported beef." "So if you can't even discern imported meat, we might as well use it from next year. No need to send my daughter out for it," she declared. "Wait a minute. Then the prime meat is—" "We'll enjoy it after you leave, Dad and I," Mom said with a smile. "And I heard from my daughter that you even had her do the major cleaning," she continued, revealing another twist. By now, it was clear this was a full-scale payback. Clearly flustered, Hazel and Aurora started to panic. But Aurora, after scanning the room, seemed to find some relief at the sight of the clean exhaust fan, letting out an unmistakable sigh of relief. "At least the cleaning is done," she sighed. However, that was not the same as saying no cleaning was necessary. With a deliberate tilt of her head towards the exhaust fan, Mom asked, "Who said we were ordering an exhaust fan?" Dad walked in at that moment. He was carrying a package.
"If it weren't for the fields, the cauliflower is thriving this season,"
he started to explain. Upon receiving it, Mom unwrapped the package. Inside was a weed puller. With a bright smile, she handed 2 weed pullers to Aurora and Hazel. "So, we own the hill in the back. We'd like you to weed it," she said. "The hill?" they exclaimed, their eyes wide with disbelief. "A hill has constant weeds, not to mention trees," Hazel barked. "Yes, that's the point. To my daughter, cleaning someone else's house is trivial. But you made her do it because you were too busy, right? We don't like thorns pricking our feet when we walk through that hill. But it's not fair to have others do it, and not yourselves. So go on. I've prepared garbage bags for you," Mom instructed. And so Hazel and Aurora were sent off again. "That's everything my daughter had to deal with during her first return home," Mom informed Gabriel. Gabriel apologized.
"I'm sorry. I was just asking Mom because Layla's actions look strange from here, and she told me she was doing the job of a son's wife."
"Something I used to do." He then turned to me.
"Why didn't you talk to me about it?"
"Because you said we shouldn't speak ill of others," I replied. It was hard to say because of my husband's catastrophe and his character.
"Sorry. The thing about not speaking ill of others, well, that's just spitting out demeaning words about someone. I don't think that's very good. But you see, consulting about a problem is seeking a solution. I was always ready to lend an ear for that. But I realize now that it was my fault for creating an atmosphere where even such discussions were difficult. I'm sorry. To think that all of this was happening to you? If we consider this a matter for discussion, then it's unquestionably unforgivable. I can't allow my wife to be put through such things."
As evening approached, Hazel and Aurora returned home, obviously outraged.
"I did stay till night, as I was supposed to. Layla only cleaned for 1 day,"
Hazel exclaimed.
"Well, this should do it. You're coming back to our house, starting with a big cleaning,"
Aurora also shouted. However, in contrast to their heated voices,
"I'm not coming back,"
said my husband in a cold tone.
"What?"
"What?"
Aurora and Hazel yelled, their faces weary.
"But we've done all this work."
"That's right. You have to come back since we did the same amount."
This caused my husband to express his anger. He slammed the table and shouted,
"To not realize that you've done the same thing and made my wife endure such unreasonable treatment. That's the end for both of you."
Then he declared loudly,
"This is the end. Please leave. Layla won't go back there, nor will I. It's over from now on, forever. Mom, this is the last time I'll call you Mom. Treating my wife like a servant and then extorting money, someone like that will no longer be called Mom by me."
Thus, Aurora and Hazel were cast out from our home, and my husband severed ties with them. In the end, Dad said to me,
"No matter what kind of person mother-in-law is, a husband who protects you is a decent man. And the teaching that one shouldn't speak ill of others isn't such a bad thing after all."
Mom said, "Good job. Go home and eat," and gave me prime meat in an insulated bag. Time passed. Children grow up so fast, and my eldest son is now in 6th grade, and second son in 4th grade. Since then, I've received an apology call from brother-in-law. It seems brother-in-law was quite shocked that Hazel and Aurora had stormed out without saying where they were going. especially since it was after Christmas. Eventually, after hearing the details of the incident from my husband over the phone, before Aurora and Hazel returned, he was furious. He had vaguely realized that Aurora had a disdainful attitude towards others. This incident was the last straw, and they divorced. Their 2 children would now live with brother-in-law. And as for Hazel, she was kicked out around the same time as Aurora because she was dependent on others. With nowhere else to go, she ended up staying in Aurora's cramped apartment. Aurora, not being very capable and having lived off others, is now struggling without finding work, but it's a matter of personal responsibility. The gift cards were refunded for anything over $35, and now, after a mutual consultation, an age-appropriate amount is being given. Now, back to the story after the years had passed. Years later, my eldest son is in 6th grade. He was elected as a student council leader. The reason was explained to me by his teacher. When someone spoke ill of another, my eldest would always find a way to see the good in them. He became the kind of kid who saved others with his kindness. Trusted by everyone, he was even elected in school elections, she recounted. The eldest son's dream? To be a member of the U.S. military. In the end, he interpreted his father's wishes for him to have a big heart as a call to serve, and made a broad impact, his own conclusion. The second son wants to be a firefighter. It seems he, too, shaped his dreams around his father's teaching in his own way. Today, there's an air show. Watching the U.S. Navy Blue Angels soar overhead, both boys' eyes sparkle with inspiration. May their dreams stretch far and wide. And me? I squinted up at the heart drawn in the azure sky, feeling hopeful.